Hey, let's do a shot together. We're after dark. Who cares? Cheers. What an introduction. What is this? This is crazy. Hey, welcome to HR After Dark. I forgot how to do the introduction to this, so the only thing I can think of is the game show where they're like, welcome to Whose Line Is It Anyways? The points don't matter. Whatever. Excuse the noise. I'm figuring the studio out. Hey, new studio. I am in my own little office space officially. Because who am I? I have a work from home job. So this is the setup that we're working with now. So we're keeping things low, we're keeping things quiet, and also there is a redirection to the show, and we're going to get into the who's who. I've taken a year off since starting HR After Dark, and there is a good reason why, and it ties into obviously everything involving employment and graduating life. And so much of me has been kind of needing that break to take the back step to finding creative direction and finding where I wanted this podcast to go, because I don't want to ever jump on here and just give everybody employment facts and boring monotony. I don't want this podcast to ever be something that is like you're listening and you're like not feeling like this is something that you need to listen to. So I very much saw the podcast was going that way when I was constantly talking about the state of the administration in the United States. I couldn't have that. I couldn't have the constant mental capacity and the mental load. And this is something that you need to be able to turn to at the end of your workday, and kind of look at it as I need to relax for a minute. I need to get some clarification. I need, a little chit chat moment. And I think it was very much too structured. And so I really feel like I owe you guys an explanation as to why I've been gone. In the nutshell, if you want to stop listening right here, right now, and just get the debrief, if you want to get the Cliff Notes version is that I went through a mental health crisis. I couldn't sustain my family and the podcast and my full-time job all at once. That's crazy. That's crazy to ask of somebody. Podcasters do this as a full-time job. I was very much treating it as my full-time job. It's not. It's a side gig. It's a side hustle. I don't get paid. I don't do brands. I don't get paid to, this podcast is brought to you by Zazzle. I don't get paid to do any of that. I come on here on my own free will to give what I see as going on in the world, to be able to chit chat, to be able to have a silly, goofy time, to be able to do TikTok lives, so on and so forth. I don't come on here as a job. And I think that that is something that I very much took as this is my job. I took it very serious and needed to happen every week. And I think from here on out, we're going to rebrand. We want this podcast to be somewhere where you guys can turn to as a relaxation point, at the end of your week, the middle of your week, whenever you want to listen to it. We just chill out together. And I also very much want to make this something that is Original podcasting. I may have a few episodes here and there on YouTube. That's not my focus. I don't need you guys to stare at me throughout this entire length of the podcast every time, because then you have to be in full glam and putting on a front. And this is never what the podcast was. It was never, let's put on a front. Let's pretend like we have our life together. I don't have my life together. I took a shot on camera with you guys. I welcomed you back. We sat down, we had a little moment, and I want that to be our relationship going forward. You need somebody to see you, and I'm here for you, and I got you. And so all of this to say, this episode, she's going to be a little like, here's my, I was canceled apology video. If you're down for it, if you want to listen, if you want to watch, if you want to see it, if you want to experience the chaos, I'm down for it. I don't do this for a living. I do this because I genuinely have found time to enjoy this and to do this. If an episode comes out every month, then an episode comes out every month, whether that's a 30-minute episode, whether that's a 20-minute episode, whether that's, a life check-in or what have you. Something is going to happen from that aspect. Is it going to be a video every single time? Hell no. Hell no. This is cute, right? Like, I've got my bear, I've got my, plant, whatever. I don't want to be on camera every single time. Expect bare bones basic podcasting. What was podcasting back in the day? There was no video, there was no YouTube, there was no TikTok shorts. Podcasting back in the day was very like Dahlia or Delilah late night or whatever. She was very ASMR back in the day. So I've done my intro, I've done my piece. I'm going to move around in my chair. You're going to hear some noise. Originally, I filtered out a lot of the noise. I wanted to make it like very, very corporate level podcast. I don't give a shit if you hear anything from this point going forward. And you know why? Because too much of podcasts and too much of real life is scripted to be so very fake. Engagement needs to be, I'm sitting my ass down or I'm driving to work or what have you, and I'm turning on my program. We used to turn on Golden Girls or Scooby-Doo back in the day and be like, this is my program. That's very much how I want this podcast to be. This is my program. Excuse me. You can do the dishes. Right now, I've got my program on. Half of my engagement, half of my viewers are people from my past. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to my past for listening, first of all. But that's how you grow your audience, right? It's somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Oh, I went to school with this girl, check her out. Oh, I worked with them at one point in my life, check them out. And word of mouth is everything. You can advertise your business all you want, but at the end of the day, word of mouth speaks volumes. I just had somebody message me the other day about legal proceedings and if they were to take somebody to small claims court. Hello? You've messaged the right person. The call is coming from inside the house. You have something for a paralegal. I can answer. I'm not going to give you law advice. Contact your lawyer. Employment law, I got you. Your employee or your coworker or whoever is acting a fool, bitch, I got you. I have a sign on my desk. And the sign on my desk says, I'm not like regular HR, I'm cool HR. And I recently had somebody in my IT department come to me and they're like, I'm sorry I ask you so many questions, but however, you do have the sign on your desk. And I'm like, no, thank you. I love when an employee feels comfortable enough to come to me. Please don't see me as somebody who has all the advice. There's somebody out there who has better advice than I do. However, I'm going to tell you straight. I'm never going to sugarcoat it. bullshit it. And that is what I'm here to bring. I'm here to bring, you're fed up, so is HR. You're fed up, and here is why HR agrees with you. So, all that to say, let's get into why I left. That's why everybody's here. That's what everybody wants to know. What'd you leave for? Why were you gone for a year? I needed a mental break. And a mental break is allowed, right? We found transitions. We didn't have transitions before. We have transitions now. Can we hear it again? Can we get a little crowd? It's the little things in life, right? Like, it's so stupid. Oh, a little transition moment. What is this? Oh, she is. Oh, she's getting into it. The drama. So I didn't plan to disappear for a year. Nobody plans to disappear from something that they announce. I hit a point in my brain, and my brain said, hey, we're done. And not in the dramatic, cinematic kind of way. It was in the very quiet, bureaucratic position and way of my nervous system filed a resignation letter with absolutely no notice period. And that's how burnout works for me. No explosions, just a functional freeze and a very professional ghosting, including my own podcast, which ironically once covered an episode about ghosting. So yeah, I became the ghost. It was around the time that I was doom scrolling for political articles and trying to find the perfect weekly topic, not because I didn't have anything to say. I had so much to say. I had so many angles that I could tackle a topic from, and I had so many disasters competing for airtime. And how do you choose between constitutional crises and HR scandals and layoffs and whistleblowers and DEI backlash and Schedule F chaos and whatever the fresh hell Washington invented that week? And apparently the answer is you don't. If you want to protect your mental health, pass your law school finals, and start a new job, pretend you have weekends, because somewhere in that timeline, I forgot that HR After Dark was supposed to be the art. We're the arts. We're the arts girlies. A creative outlet, a place where I could take everything I was learning, employment law, HR, systems, politics, risks, and turn it into something interesting, something thoughtful, something a little darkly funny, something that challenged me to see both sides of a thing, even when I had bias. Instead, I made it into a 9-to-5, a weekly cadence, TikTok teasers, marketing, trying to grow an audience, trying to create hit episodes, as if viewership was the metric that determined whether or not I had a voice. And spoiler, that's exactly how you kill a creative outlet. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't just politically burned out. I was professionally burned out, academically burned out, and creatively burned out. My exhaustion was exhausted. Law school will do that to you, and so will HR. So if you're ever feeling like, I want to get into HR, you're going to get burned out. And that's why you see so many people that start in HR or transition to HR and quickly take a hike. It's truly not for the faint of heart, because you have so much empathy inside of you. You have so much love for those employees inside of you and also the company, because you have to play two sides of the coin. I was burnt out. I had law school and I had HR at the same time. Baby, in this economy, living in the country where the news cycle has the emotional vibration of a fire alarm, all while simmering, I scheduled every weekend into oblivion. Events, obligations, plans, routines, a calendar. I cannot tell you how much free time was scheduled out of future me can handle that. And future me could not. And future me would not. And future me did not. Because when the moment finally came, I was sitting with my mic, staring into the quiet, trying to decide whether to rest or to pretend pushing was rest. And that's what burnout felt like for me. It was not a collapse. It was indecision. It was fog. It was overstimulation. A brain that kept whispering, do nothing, we're tired. And then I had so much guilt because I'd already told people I'm posting weekly. It's chill. Just pop in and listen. And I was so casual about it. And here's the thing. Here's the part I didn't expect. After the guilt, I was so relieved. I felt actual relief because life had things to offer me that didn't require the microphone. I got to fully enjoy my new job without every learning moment turning into content. I got to finish my Juris Masters without the pressure to narrate the process. I got to graduate and feel proud without turning the ceremony into some cinematic TikTok montage. And I even got to take a family vacation. I wasn't writing outlines in my head. I wasn't mentally breaking down policy changes. I got to take the kind of vacation that I hadn't had in years because I'd been in school so long. And somewhere in that space, I found my rhythm. I found my balance. I read actual books that didn't require citations or real-time political analysis, books that reminded me how quiet my brain could be when it wasn't responsible for understanding the country. And slowly, I remember exactly why I started HR After Dark in the first place. And it wasn't for the audience, and I'm so grateful for whoever listens. And it wasn't for the numbers or for the growth, for challenge, for curiosity, for honesty, for art, for me. It didn't matter if 400 people listened or 40 or 4 or hell, if I listened in my office wearing my headphones, pretending that I'm a one-woman NPR, even if 30 people cared, that was enough. Even if one person in India listened at 2 a.m., that was enough. And I felt permission to take a step back from something. And I would hope that they took a step back from something in their own life that was enough. So to whoever is listening, if you're burnt out, if you're overwhelmed, if you're overstimulated by the state of the country, you're not alone and you're not wrong for feeling it. And I honestly have to pause there to say that burnout isn't happening in a vacuum, and I have to pause to hit my vape, and I have to pause to take a breath, and I have to pause to really reiterate that you're not alone. I want to reassure you that there may be edits to this podcast. Hell, I just went pee and edited the whole thing out for brevity of time because your time is valuable. But this is supposed to be an unfiltered moment. And burnout isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening in a moment where the world is loud and the stakes feel high and the news cycle doesn't give anyone a second to breathe. When political climate shifted, I felt it first as anger and a sharp mama bear protective instinct. Because when you work in HR, you don't just think about policies. You think about people. You think about how real lives are going to collide with whatever Washington decides to reinvent during that week. And when the first 30 days of the administration hit, it wasn't one big change. It was hit after hit after hit, and DEI pulled apart, and SHRM under fire, and layoffs and restructuring and ICE raids and speeches and loopholes engineered by gray ink. And it didn't feel like politics. It felt like someone had taken my entire professional ecosystem and shaken it by the shoulders. I wanted to keep up, and I wanted to warn people, and I wanted to prepare them. But there's a thin line between advocacy and hypervigilance. And I crossed it very quietly because political burnout doesn't always look like apathy. And sometimes it looks like you're trying to track every headline and every leak and every new enforcement strategy and memo. It looks like you're playing defense in a game that no one told you the rules to. And somewhere in the middle of it, my body started talking. Fear landed in my chest. Heavy, protective, historical. The kind of fear that makes your mind whisper. We've seen versions of this before. History repeats itself. Even when no one says the quiet part out loud, chest fear is moral fear. Chest fear is collective fear. And chest fear is the kind of fear that tells you you're paying attention. And then winter came. Winter with its gray skies and low vitamin D. Winter with its holidays and hosting and traveling and social obligations and performance anxiety for people who love quiet more than spectacle. Winter where sun checks out at 4 p.m. and takes half of your serotonin with it. For me, winter hits hardest when life expects me to be on and performing. When I'm driving a family trip through Virginia, hoping everyone enjoys themselves while my brain whispers intrusive thoughts like static. When my OCD picks at details that nobody even sees. And my anxiety tries to control the moment so nothing falls apart. And that, on top of everything else, on top of my new job, on top of graduating, on top of whatever life was throwing me at that moment, we weren't just in winter. We were in a winter of information where doomscrolling passes for awareness. Algorithms reward panic, where you tell yourself you're staying informed, but what you're really doing is trying to find the next piece of information that explains the last one. Nearly 2/3 of Americans say they're anxious about what's happening in the world right now. The wars, the politics, the economy, the state of society, the future of the nation. According to psychiatry.org, the number of adults reporting increased anxiety keeps on climbing. In one survey, about 43% said they felt more anxious than they did the year before. 43%. Right now, 7 in 10 adults say the future of the country itself is a major source of stress. 70%, over half. And if you feel overwhelmed, that's not a personal flaw. That is a statistical norm. An estimated 42.5 million U.S. adults are living with anxiety disorder. 1 in 4 adults feel anxious or depressed. Actually talk to mental health professionals in the past year. Only 1 in 4 have reached out. And that means people are doing exactly what I did. They're holding it, they're managing it, they're rationalizing it, pretending it's fine, because we've built an entire culture on endurance. Burnout does not discriminate, and the body has a limited menu of responses. We're fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And I personally love to start in a fight. I love to channel my anger and advocacy and protect employees and analyze the administration. And then at some point, I just move into flight and I need to get out and I need to shut down and I need to turn off the apps and I need to walk away. And I need to remove myself from the noise. And then I freeze. Functional paralysis and numbness and mental buffering just overcomes me. And it's not laziness. It's conservation. It's my nervous system. And our nervous systems are ancient. They don't care about the news cycle. They care about survival. In a world where everything feels urgent and everything feels high stakes and everything feels like it requires commentary, numbness becomes a triage because you can't outrun winter. You can't outrun the algorithm. You can't outrun the country. All you can do is step back far enough to see the whole picture. Bird's eye view, the same way that HR steps back from conflict to understand what actually happened in the given scenario. Sometimes stepping away isn't quitting. It's investigation. It's clarity, choosing not to get trapped in the incident report of your own life. So if you're listening and you're burnt out or politically exhausted or winter sad or anxious or frozen, you're not alone. You're not dramatic for feeling overwhelmed. You're not weak for feeling tired. You're not alone and you're not wrong. Your brain is not malfunctioning and your nervous system is doing its job. You're allowed to use the tools tucked inside your health plan at work, and you're allowed to talk to a therapist. You're allowed to use your EAP. You're allowed to use benefits that you've already paid for, because support doesn't make you fragile. It makes you resourced. Rest doesn't have to be earned. You can take a step back before you break. You can freeze before you shatter, and you can disappear for a season or an entire year and come back when you're ready. Because I did. I'm here now. Low frequency, high quality, HR after dark. I'm back when there's something to say. Topics that are so important to talk about, to share, to converse in with people who matter. And you matter.